Hello, Internet. Welcome to Wednesday's thing. I got some comics and I want to show off. Here is Group 1. Here is Group 2. And here is Group 3. Let's do this. So basically, is what had happened is I found these eBay auctions, and it was all by this guy who mostly had slabbed books. Unfortunately, it was selling some cyberpunk book. Oh my gosh, it's Ethan Van Sciver. Okay, but he had these three, well, actually, had five lots of 10 issues of Daredevil at a time within relative amounts of issues to each other, like 40s, 50s, that sort of thing. Some of them I kind of already owned, but some of them were diving back further. And so I'm trying to count all the issues I have in my Daredevil on Nimbus as those being my copies of that, because that's the first 40 issues of Daredevil. And a number of those are, collector items to get a first print of. But beyond that, as far as going this early in a run, most Daredevil issues are comparatively not too bad. It's a lot more than I've been used to spending on comics until the last couple of years now that I've gotten older. And with these collections, I'm within spitting distance of a pretty complete run of Daredevil. So we got 46 here. But I don't know what this guy's doing with the painter's tape. Do you guys know what's with that? It seems like a kooky thing. We have 46. And these seem to be, and I mean, like if you're a collector, like there's creases on the spine, there's, some blunted corners, and there's some like crack here, right? Like, but I mean, for issues this old, as long as the ink is where it needs to be, so it's legible to read, I'm more than happy with this. Like, this is, I'd rather have a few imperfections be able to afford the comic than know I spent some ungodly amount. Yeah, no, look at this. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh man, this is wonderful. This is diving into some early stuff, and part of what had me excited to get some of this earlier Daredevil is 47 was kind of the spread of creators. Unlike, Spider-Man, Steve Ditko and Spider-Man, and then Romita, and by the time you're done with that, you're well into the run. A lot of the earlier stuff of Daredevil, it's a few issues here, Wally Wood, a few issues there, Roy Thomas, it's just a whole bunch of creators. And a number I'm completely unfamiliar with, but I know are names of the day in, from early Marvel that were coming from DC or moonlighting at Marvel or whatever it was, in a number of instances. God, look at that. And a lot of this is some more classic cartooning. And then, oh my God, I was over the moon to get this. This is maybe one of my favorite covers in the world now. I love this one. I I love that image. I think if I was to get that without all the stuff there, make that, to me that's a poster. Like, that's really cool. Oh, here we go. 54 here. And this one is a little sexier than the rest of them. But I mean, again, this is a 15-cent comic. I mean, dang. R.I.P. member. Sorry, I'm just over the moon. I knew what I was getting, but seeing them in person, I spent a pretty penny getting these issues, but for this kind of collecting, in my mind growing up, these kinds of comics were beyond the pale. And this is not money I would have spent on comics a while ago. Like, this is an indulgence. But I don't know how to put it. With comics being as expensive as they are new now, this is more expensive per issue, but like within spitting distance. Like the amount I spent on the last Ronin issue when I bought it without a discount, because I bought two copies of the first one because I wasn't sure if the first one was coming in. It looked a little shaky for a second. I spent more on that than, one of these issues. And I mean, that's not cheap, but I mean, it's not some ungodly amount. And here it is. And just this joy of collecting, this idea that I could have a Daredevil collection is just so exciting. Here we go. You don't see covers like that anymore. One thing that's nice too is all of these came bagged and boarded in bags and boards that I'm happy with. These aren't Mylar. There's a couple I wouldn't mind replacing necessarily, but what's bigger about that is I have a whole box ready to go of bags and boards. But these older issues are sized differently if you're unfamiliar. And so in order for me to rebag and board these, I'd have to invest. Though for these kinds of issues, if I'm going to go that route, and it might be worth it at this point for me to buy some Mylars of stuff at this size, because I have some Fantastic Four at this size too, and it would be nice to make sure those issues are taken care of a little better than some of the others. So let's look at round 2. Something curious, in my second batch, all the bags are not taped, unlike the first. A lot of them were self-adhesive, but just weird. So next up is 58. It's like an early, what was that, Ridge Racer? No, not Ridge Racer, that's a video game. Man, that Spider-Man villain that I cannot think of. Rocket Racer. That's who I'm trying to think of. Look how DD, it's death to tangle with the torpedo. I don't know. Classic superhero stuff. I mean, this is probably more aping some Batman or whatnot. Issue 60. As far as I know, maybe not one of the more classic issues, but still. Oh, here we go. Hyde, Cobra, and Jester. This has got to be some sort of to-do. 62 with Nighthawk. Some classic Marvel. Here comes Daredevil. Some of the goofier stuff I believe that Wade pulled from. The Stunt Master. Yeah, this character didn't catch on. It's really fun. I'm also curious to see, because I know Daredevil did languish for a while until Frank Miller came on. I mean, that's, at this point, twice the run in from where we are. But, roughly, don't kill me. But, Karen's dead and you're the one who killed her. Oh, man. Yeah, that's early. Brimstone. Man. Just cool. Look, woolly mammoths. Stiltman. I don't know. I think this looks so cool, and part of it that's been fun for me. When I was reading through the Daredevil minis, I forget if I spoke about this or not. I went and I illegally read the first few issues of Daredevil. I own them now. I just needed to read them that night for comparison to The Man Without Fear, and seeing how closely it actually played with the original issues. And what was really interesting to me is a lot of people I know talk about how Spider-Man, oh, here we go, 73, Iron Man's in there. That looks great. Oh, Zodiac. There we go. It played very closely to those original issues, but the interesting bit is that Daredevil is this really fully formed character, and he had some surrounding cast that felt really fully formed within 3 issues, which is really tight for a lot of early superhero comic stuff. And a lot of people give credit to, like, Spider-Man for really, I mean, most of what you know about Spider-Man. Obviously, some stuff has developed later, Venom and Carnage and, a handful of other things, the Prowler. But really, first handful of issues really set up some of the most prominent villains, a lot of the status quo. Just so much is in those early. But Daredevil, I mean, right out the gate, blind lawyer, Catholic guilt, moonlighting as Daredevil, Daredevil coming from him as a schoolboy being mocked by that name, the law practice having a partner, so it's Nelson and Murdoch, and Nelson, as far as a side character, is really fully realized. Even Jack Murdoch is not necessarily, I'd say, fully realized in those original issues because he's barely there because the comics are moving so fast. But the idea of him and what he's carrying through is so present. It holds true even when they dig in with other minis fully exploring that decades later. I think Daredevil is just such an incredible concept, and the more I think about it, the more exciting it is. And the idea that really, unlike a lot of the earlier Marvel projects, and I know Stan Lee and Jack Kirby generally take a lot of credit and have some ownership of a lot of it, but I mean, with Daredevil, Stan Lee definitely was there and, did that early bit with the stuff that I'm talking about there, along with Gene Colan, was it? Man, my memories, please kill me on that one, I should know. But the artists that come in and then the writers that come in, how they're tackling this character right out the gate is really interesting, because usually a lot of the Marvel characters had a lot more through line before they were handed off in such a way. And Daredevil just spun out. And I don't know, it's really exciting to me, to the idea that there's all these different angles to play with the character, and that it wasn't as beholden as some of the other characters were, I believe. I feel like Iron Man was really kind of pigeonholed. Captain America kind of has his breath. The X-Men, dealt with a certain number of things before they were reinvented with giant size. And Spider-Man had his niche with a lot of the teenage stuff and being kind of the star, but Daredevil was floating in the back, barely holding on, but they kept running the book, and there had to be something there. So, I don't know, it just tickles me pink. So let's look at the third batch. Alrighty. So, batch 3 also wasn't taped. Easily remedied. The whole city's gone blind. Foggy, I can't see. Okay. 74. This cover has me hooked. Already in it. 76. No, 75. Fly High Die. I don't know. Did they care about, 75 at that point? Did they make that a milestone? I mean, Stan Lee, they had to, right? He's fighting a Minotaur. Horns. That's the connection, I guess. I don't know. Okay, this one might be more of a reach. This cover's kind of stood out to me as I've been looking through things, and it's hard to ignore that part of it is just because that framing. Look how they're framing the cover there, and that just adds to it. I know you generally want the cover to be fully out, but that it just helps make it pop a little bit. It's interesting. Oh no. It looks like someone took a pen to the logo here. Oh well. But it's Electro. That's fun. Uh-oh. He's back. Second appearance of the Purple Man. Purple, purple, purple. Should be good. 89. Here's Electro again. Alright. Oh, and first cover appearance, I think, of Widow and Daredevil together. Which, I mean, I doubt that's a key thing or anything, but knowing that for a while this book is Daredevil and the Black Widow, that seems relevant. All right, Mr. Fear. This is something I was curious about. Having read the Mr. Fear bit in the second volume, which I believe was mostly Brute Baker's bit. I was always curious how Mr. Fear was handled in earlier comics when the code was more strictly enforced. So I'm curious about that. And then, yeah, next issue, 92. This is a big one for me because this plugs a big hole. And Daredevil and the Black Widow on the cover, first time, just a couple issues later. And this runs for a bit. That's a big deal. And from there, I mean, this 92 buttons up a bit, and then pretty much have it from there. I don't have the first appearance of Elektra, and I don't have another one of the big keys. First appearance of Bullseye, though I do have a facsimile of that. Yeah, obviously, as you saw as I went through the issues, there are holes. I'm hoping to address that and see about working maybe even down. I don't know. I mean, I wonder how far you can go with it being in a comfortable double digit, because I don't know. I've never really worked a Marvel run down this far. I just kind of completed my Fantastic Four run, and I did that by buying 4 of the Animbi omnibuses. I bought a train station of collections, and that worked because obviously the first 100-some issues of Fantastic Four are like $50 nearly every issue, and rightfully so. The early Fantastic Four, I mean, is the most important Fantastic Four issues, but also some of the most important Marvel issues. Predates all of this anyways by a bit. I understand those issues are more pricey, and they darn well deserve to be. It's just, I'm much happier doing a collection of those because the relative price, for what I was able to get discounted for an omnibus was like 1 or 2 issues of what it would take for what was contained in those collections. So, yeah. But here with Daredevil, there's only the one omnibus, and then there are other collections, but those collections are really hard to come by. And even with an accelerated price, finding a couple of those would be cheaper than getting some of these issues, no question, but it's tight. And the excitement of having these early issues versus spending an arm and a leg to get a trade paperback, I don't know, it's really exciting. So there we go. I'm going to tally it up, see where it is, and keep on going. But I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all keep reading. Please hit me up with any questions. Follow me at GD Milkman on Twitter. Keep on rolling, guys.